Tell me what you pay attention to, and I'll tell you who you are, is a quote by Jose Ortega y Gasset, and it has to do with your personality. Did you know that there are some habits that reveal stuff about your personality? Today, we're going to talk about a couple, what they reveal, and finally, we'll end it off with something we're sure a lot of you do, and what it can tell you about your personality. But first, go ahead and click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell while you're at it too. It'll reveal that you're a very smart person who cares about your health, quality of life, and other really cool stuff. So speaking of really cool stuff, what kind of things can reveal stuff about your personality? What activities will show other people what kind of person you are? Let's go through a couple today. Number 1. Shopping habits. Everyone loves a good shop, whether it be for shoes or clothes or video games or tools. There's no better feeling than buying something new for yourself. But did you know that the way that you shop can reveal something about your personality? Yes. Think about yourself. When you look for something, especially if it's food or something that requires instructions, do you meticulously paw over the box, reading everything about it? Or do you just pick it up and automatically assume that you know how it works? Depending on how you answered, you might be an explanation fiend or an explanation foe. A 2013 study done by Philip N. Fernbach, Stephen A. Sloman, Robert St. Louis, and Julia N. Schub describes the two personality types perfectly. Explanation fiends score high on measures of cognitive reflection, meaning they analyze information to depth and prefer lots of detail about products. Explanation foes, on the other hand, score low on measures of cognitive reflection, meaning they don't do well with so many details and prefer more general information. So next time you're at a drug or grocery store, keep this in mind. You can tell a lot about yourself this way. Number 2. Hanging toilet paper. Debates about the right way to hang toilet paper have been raging on the internet for what seems like forever. There are good points to each side, unless you're one of those people that lets your toilet paper touch the wall. Then you're a classless swine. But did you know that there are correlations between how dominant you are? Enter Gilda Carl, who for some reason does an experiment about how people hang their toilet paper. She asked a group of men and women about which way they roll the roll. Then, she asked them to fill out a survey about how dominant they are. Carl told The Independent, results showed that those who roll the toilet paper over tend to be more dominant, when those who roll it under tend to be more submissive. In fact, there are people who will change the direction of the roll no matter where they are. These people are the obvious alphas of the human race. Number 3. Eating habits. There are so many things your eating habits can determine about your personality. It's staggering. A study done by the Huffington Post found that specifically slow eaters generally like to be in control and know how to appreciate life. Fast eaters tend to be ambitious, goal-oriented, open to new experiences, and often impatient. Adventurous eaters probably like to step out of their comfort zones, while picky eaters are likely neurotic in different areas of their lives. Those last two seem pretty obvious, but remember what you're showcasing next time you go out to dinner. Who knows? Maybe instead of spending all your good boy points on tendies, this time try some escargot or something. Who are we kidding? That's blasphemy. Number 4. Music preferences. Just like your eating habits, the kind of music you listen to can determine your personality. Before you say, "No duh," we can hear you, so don't even try that. There are. Hey, we said not to say it. Anyways, there are some personality traits of some music preferences that might surprise you. The study was done by Professor Adrian North of the Department of Applied Psychology at the Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, and his findings were this. Those who liked opera often had high self-esteem, were gentle, and creative. The people who were into classical music also had high self-esteem, but tended to be more quiet, introverted, and creative. The jazz lovers who participated mostly had high self-esteem, were outgoing, calm, and creative. Like the jazz lovers, the people who enjoyed blues and soul, most also had high self-esteem, were outgoing, calm, creative, but tended to be more gentle than their jazz-loving counterparts. The people who enjoyed reggae above all else usually had a high self-esteem, but were not hard-working. They were also sociable, calm, gentle, and creative. Just like the songs they listened to would imply, the country and western fans were hard-working and sociable. In possibly the worst outcome of them all, the people who loved indie music tended to have low self-esteem. They were not hard-working, and they were restless. However, they were also very creative. Once again, like the music that they listened to, the people who liked Bollywood music more than any other genre were outgoing, had high self-esteem, were creative, but were pretty restless. The people who enjoyed top 40s chart pop tended to have high self-esteem, were hardworking, outgoing, calm, gentle, but were not all creative. The people who enjoyed rap had high self-esteem and were sociable. The ones that enjoyed dance music were sociable and creative. And finally, the people who liked rock and heavy metal tended to have low self-esteem, were not hardworking, were introverted, calm, gentle, and creative. See? We told you some music genre personality traits were surprising. Alright, now that we've gone through a couple revealing habits and ways you might do things, let's get to the big one, biting your nails. Chances are you've probably bitten your nails at some point in your life, whether it was because of a really scary movie or it was a regular habit you had during school. We've all been there. But have you ever stopped to consider why you're biting your nails? Some people might do it in lieu of a nail clipper, and others might associate it with stress and nervousness. While that may be the case for some people, there are actual other things, such as personality traits, that nail gnawing might be indications of. A review by the Journal of Behavior Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry indicates that nail biting might be linked to perfectionism. Today, psychology describes perfectionism as an endless report card on accomplishments, and it's often associated with depression. Let's take a closer look at some of the research. Repetitive behaviors such as biting your nails are defined as body-focused repetitive behaviors, or BFRBs. This can include other similar habits such as skin picking and hair pulling. In order to find out what sparks these BFRB behaviors, the researchers came up with two models: the emotional regulation, ER, and the frustrated action model, FA. The ER causes the FA to react, which suggests that anxiety, disappointment, and frustration are all responsible factors for the BFRBs. This study suggests that people who do these BFRBs regularly are more likely to experience an FA. Dr. Kieran O'Connor explained that from this research, they believe that people with these repetitive tendencies could be perfectionists. This means that they are unable to relax or perform tasks at an average pace. They get impatient and are prone to frustration when they can't reach their goals, which is what leads to these bad habits. Basically, nail biting and other bad habits have less to do with anxiety of stress and more the frustration, according to these findings. Although nail biting and other BFRB habits may seem harmless, they actually have physical and emotional consequences. Some physical consequences to nail biting can include sore, red fingernails, bleeding, a risk of infection, contamination, finger to mouth, teeth weakening, maladjusted teeth, and more. Other studies show that nail biting could be related to more serious mental health issues, such as OCD. Other risks of nail biting include the risk of illness and infection. There are thousands of germs crawling under your fingernails, including bacteria, that cause diarrhea and vomiting. Enough nail biting can lead to other issues such as dental damage and finger sores. Not to mention, it doesn't leave the best first impression. If you have a nail biting habit, it can make you come across as nervous or ill-prepared when you're in public situations. So what can you do to stop? There are a few methods. You can try covering your nails with sticker or tape. You could wear gloves, or get a manicure that prevents you from biting. You could always replace it with a healthy habit, such as playing with a stress toy like a fidget spinner or a cube. It's not going to be an easy process, but the first thing to do is recognize that nail biting is a bad habit, and if you do it regularly, you should probably consider the risks. And so, this ends our video about nail biting and other things that might show or affect your personality. What did you think of our list? What things that reveal your personality surprised you the most? Did you learn a thing or two about yourself? Or maybe you already knew all of this, or we forgot something. Tell us all about you and your personality in the comment section below. Enjoyed this video? Hit the like button and share with your friends. Also, subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.